do this then. Let's talk about some of the weapon changes, because again, these were just slipped in there, but some of these are enormous. Like, but I think actually the one, I know everyone was talking about the M4A1, so I want to talk about the Deagle first here, Yumi. I noticed a lot of people almost were just like, whatever, because basically the change is like, the damage to the body is slightly less. I think this is an enormous change, especially at pro play, because remember, you always have to remember, I don't care about what someone in a matchmaking server does. Plenty of people are terrible, and you can use every gun in matchmaking. At the pro level, they're going to get every single little bit of juice you can out of stuff. In fact, I remember when they first started using the Deagle, actually, it was in around 2015, it was actually the NV team with MBK and all those players, and basically, before that, everyone just used the CZ. But once the CZ was nerfed enough, people suddenly remembered, wait a minute, there's this gun called the Deagle, which first of all, if you've got sick aimers like that team does, you're just going to get a bunch of free headshots, which allows you to get back in the game. And then secondly, and this is the key part for this change, if they rush you, you almost can't miss with the Deagle. Like, it sort of fires itself around the body. And if one of those motherfuckers lands, that isn't the same as a long-range headshot that's like skilled to some degree. Essentially, you can sort of spam it. And especially if you're in pro play, the key thing people forget is, in pro play, it's not one person acting alone. Like, if I have 3 Deagles, classic example would be like the B bomb site on Overpass. If I put those 3 people in the right angles, you're going to have a really hard time clearing that with AKs. Like, at least one or two of us are going to get a shot off. So, Yumi, what do you think of this Deagle change? Is it big for you?
Well, they buffed it recently. Like, they made it so the landing accuracy was better for the Deagle, which it kind of, I think, tipped people over the edge. So yeah, I'm a fan of the change, because you can still get a 2-shot kill with the Deagle, but you have to shoot them in the groin, which is apparently the most dangerous spot on people. And so if you land the body shots, that's where the Kevlar is, I think, mainly supposed to be. You won't get that kill, so it'll be the 3 shots instead. Which I don't know. It wasn't quite as exciting to me when somebody was getting rushed with a Deag, and I would always expect that they would get that 1 kill, especially if like you're holding like a place like ramp on nuke, say, and you're maybe in an off angle. If you're close, you're going to get that 1 kill pretty much every time. So it does take out some of the fun elements, and it kind of limits what the T side's able to do. I feel like it's another one of those CT advantages that's being sort of trimmed away, which is not great for me, because
true.
The CT side already struggles enough.
That's true. Yeah. Right, what do you think, Maniac? Obviously, like, he put in a side consideration there, which I have to say people do forget about, which is, there's the abstract change of, like, this is just what the gun does now, and obviously both sides can use the gun. But I will say, in general, if you're listing Valve, I'm actually very open even to changes I probably don't like if they just make CT side slightly stronger, because especially with the current economy, like, it's a nightmare playing CT side. So what do you just think about the Deagle changes generally, Maniac?
Yeah, let's try. I'll consider that outside from the CT versus T perspective, because I agree with you. It is a nightmare to play on the CT side. I personally always had a problem with double hit, such easy kill. Like, for me, that's an issue. You'd have player panic spraying the Deagle, grabbing 2 kills as they're getting caught out of position, and he would just bail them out. He would bail them out all the times. You mentioned nuke on ramp. That was lower on train as well before the map was removed. You'd see so many players just stopping people, absolutely spamming the mouse. For me, that was a problem. It's always been a problem. The fact that you can aim and do 5-1 tap with the Deagle, perfect. That is the signature DNA of Counter-Strike, and I love that. But the 2 shots in the body was an issue, and at least now you'll get people getting punished for that, because I think CTs, even Ts to an extent, but these short dual spam with the Deagle, that was just too forgiving. So I am a big fan of that change. Whatever requires more skill in general makes me happy. So I am all up for that change.
Yeah, I like this change as well. Like, for me, the key thing with the Deagle is the long-range headshot is really fucking hard. Like, I don't care how, like, people don't even get it. Even at pro play, like, I know everyone's going to do the classic thing, which I always tell people not to do. Don't look at the best player and nerf the gun off that. Like, don't look at Nico and go, well, this gun's OP. It isn't, because look at his teammates if they use it. They're not hitting those fucking two. Like, America isn't hitting a super long-range Deagle headshot on 2 people. So, basically, that means the gun is balanced. Nico's the one that's imbalanced, not the fucking gun. I also thought, in general, for the headshot, the price point's fine. It's $700. Like, it's not a super cheap gun. It isn't like the P250, when that was OP. It's not like you're like, oh, it's cheap and it's free, you may as well always buy it and you're going to get a dink on the head. Like, no, actually, if you can do a headshot with the Deagle, as long as it's not super close range, it's a fairly balanced gun. It's just the problem, like we're saying, is then the follow-up of spamming it, it just feels like, you just feel like you don't even feel yourself like you're aiming when you hit some of those. You just feel like it will just land eventually. It did almost have that dreaded thing of like the short range shotgun. It was just kind of a bit like that. So I think it's a pretty fair change on this one. I'm interested to see where you go on this next one though, because I've noticed, by the way, interestingly enough, in Counter-Strike, we're very different to every other game, right? Because in a lot of games, they want all the cool and fun things buffed, whereas in CS, we basically are all just like, nerf it, fucking nerf everything, because we just want it to be like, raw tactical skill and maneuvers make you win the game. So what do you think about the buff to the M4A1 S Maniac? Now, this is a gun where, again, I'll give people a bit of history. This used to be the main gun that everyone used in your day when you were a pro, for example. Then they swapped that. Everyone was using the M4A4. People don't know. It was actually very weird cases like Freiburg that would use the M4A4. Aside from that, it wasn't really used as much as a gun. But if you watch the last 4 years of Counter-Strike, you would think it was the only M4, basically. And now, basically, as far as I can tell, we're probably going to go more towards the M4A1S, which already had a price decrease, because now it does more damage to the body and actually does slightly more DPS than the M4A4, even though the M4A4 still has a higher rate of fire. And, it's kind of like, there is still an offset as to which one you use. What do you think about this one, Mini? Good change, bad change?
I will say it's a good change because, and the reason behind it is that I always dream of a world where there's an actual choice to be made between the A4A4 and the A4A1S. Not a world where you just go for the most powerful one and that is it. I really wish that situationally both guns could be viable depending on the role you play, depending on the positions you play, maybe even the maps you play. That is my ideal. That is the Counter-Strike I would like to be in. A Counter-Strike where both weapons can work depending on how you want to use them and where you want to use them. So I like that. I wish that we see more players picking up the A1S. Now, if in 5 weeks from now, everyone plays it because it's so OP, in fact, I feel like we just traded a problem for another, right?
Yes.
So I'm hoping that it's enough to push it through the finish line for some players to use it so that we can have a balance. That is what I want. I would like a balance. I would like diversity in the weapons that you pick because there is a reasoning behind it. It's always what I wanted. And in that regard, I think it's a good step.
Right, Yumi, here's the thing. Maniac was a pro, so people can go watch the demos. But before you answer this question, you have to tell me one thing, which is, were you already biased? Did you actually already prefer the silencer over the M4A4?
I did, but that's because I'm also not playing CS every day. So
right.
I know my shortcomings. Like sometimes I'll lose the spray after like the 17th bullet. I'm not exactly the most comfortable in that regard.
Okay.
But I like the silencer for different reasons. I mean, first off, it only has 5 bullets less than the A4. It's cheaper. It doesn't pull tracers when you're spamming through smokes. And now it's got a damage increase on top of all that as well. This is actually one of the rare times where I actually enjoy that we have to make the selection between the A1S and the A4 before you go into a game, because if you consider it, the A4 is going to be better at getting the headshot and the follow-up shot as well, whereas the A1S is going to fall short. And if you're in the position, say on, I don't know, B Inferno as I guess the best example, and you're an A1S player playing on the B bomb site, as a T side, if you have that information already in the back of your mind, he likes to go for that spam. You're not going to play behind that smoke in the same way that you might against an A4, because you can very easily line up those tracers and effectively get a trade frag. So this is, I've always vied for the A1S and the A4 to be able to be purchased by the CT side in almost every update. But this is actually the one change where if the A1S stays as it is, I prefer that you have to make that choice ahead of time.
My take on this one is this. Like, first of all, I've actually tried playing a whole bunch of CSDM with it. And, like, because I already like the silencer anyway, because if people don't know, in 1.6, we basically just all played with the silencer. Like, it was just what you did, because obviously you could take it on and off anyway during the round. And basically, like, it actually reminds me a little bit more of like the 1.6 Colt in that sense. Like, it actually is really easy to spray because obviously the bullets now are so powerful to the chest that, like, basically you kill him in 4 bullets. You can do that. That's just like, if you get the right angle. Also, obviously, it's a little bit more forgiving to move with it a little bit, like if you're at medium range. So the only problem I have is this. If I'm shit at the game and I played it for half an hour, I was like, this is fucking brilliant. Like, unfortunately, the really good players are going to absolutely dominate like a motherfucker. But what I like, actually, kind of like what you touched on there, Yumi, is there is actually a real choice based on what position you play and how your skill set is. Like, for example, if someone has just, like, there are certain players where, as bizarre as it sounds, because it's a different style of aiming, they are amazing at spraying, but they're not that sick actually at tapping to the head. Those players, I could see them chewing people up with the M4A1S. Meanwhile, though, if you're a player like, I mean, obviously people are like Simple, etc., if you just have instant headshot aim, you probably should just still go with the M4A4. Like, it's actually probably going to be also similarly if you're like in a scenario where you're the anchor or something, you need the extra bullets. It's going to be better for you in that sense. So I think there actually might be a decision tree on this one. I'd say that because I actually think logically there is. Even so, though, it'll depend, because I notice sometimes, even when they are theoretically both viable, a lot of pros just basically all somehow groupthink one, and they just only buy one. So you can never quite know how the pros themselves will shake out on that one. Right, what about this then? The other thing that they changed was they did the Dust 2 change, where basically there's no suicide spotting. But basically, if you play online against potential cheaters, congrats, you can now just go to the B site and you don't have to go like that. Because my problem with that Maniac has always been like this. I've seen fucking Prime Kenny S miss that double doors shot through the gap. So if you're hitting it on me every time, no matter what angle I jump at, and if I throw a smoke, listen, you're just not that good. I know there's vampires that play at 4 a.m. on Face It that just basically live in the Matrix. But aside from them, if you're just in matchmaking, you aren't hitting that on me every time. I'm reporting you for aim hacking, other hacking. Well, yeah, I'm doing that every time you hit those shots at me, because that's bullshit, right? Oh. With that said, though, like, I want to know, is everyone actually in favour of this change? Because I will say a lot of us have complained over the years about the Dovstow doors and this angle of, like, the idea that it's a bit bizarre that you can't go to one of the bomb sites without potentially being spotted and shot by someone. So it did feel in the past like maybe there was a lack of counterplay there. This change essentially, though, somewhat just like removes it entirely. It's not like they've tweaked it. They haven't made it like harder or tighter shot. They've just sort of removed it. Like, I know technically people were showing you can sort of jump down with an AWP and still hit the top part. You could have two people if you get very good spawns and sort of stand on their head and still sort of recreate the old thing. But that's, you know, that's a gamble. You have to invest something to do it. It's not the same as just standing in spawn. And it's definitely not the same as, like, the joke is that famous fucking one where Apex in the Cologne final of 2015 against Fnatic, he just peeked out to me from CT and just saw 4 AWPs just looking at him, and it was like the ultimate one of those, like, you're probably wondering how I got it. Like, yeah, I am wondering how you got it. Like, it's a major final, motherfucker. So, Maniac, where do you come down this? Like, it seems like everyone actually likes this change. Do you like the change?
I'll say yes, I do. Here's my take on it. The skill part of getting the kill between the door, I kind of liked, and I think it was an exciting part of Counter-Strike. To see an AWPer being able, to really trace someone and fighting through the door, that was cool. And even sometimes you'd get actual duels between, like, the CT sniper getting boosted and the T sniper being spawned. That was fun, and that part I like. What I hate is the freaking just lucky part of it, where on the CT side, you have to use a smoke every single freaking time, and you might not make it, or you might make it with 18 HP. What the hell is going on? Why can you not make it to your side with more than 20 HP, even with a smoke, a pop flash? There used to be a time we used to flash, we used to smoke top middle, we used everything we could not to make it through the B side unscathed, and somehow it would still not work. And that, for me, that was fucked up for me. I didn't like that. So now finally you get CTs to choose where they want to smoke. They don't need to always allocate one to cross, and I think that's fine. And you're going to have a 5v5 after 10 seconds. So in overall, I like it. I will miss, like, the actual AWPer duels where people were really going for each other. I thought that was an exciting part of Counter-Strike, but overall, I like it.
Thoughts, Yumi?
There's a part of me that almost wished that they didn't add that weird wall in T-spawn, and instead they just reinforced the double doors. And, like, I feel like they could have just made it, like, non-wall bangable from that particular angle or something of the sort, because then you could still have that mid peak. Because I don't think people realize that another adverse effect of this is that if you push B on CT side and you flank T-spawn, you have less angles that you can actually effectively flank. You, like, if they're going to go for a mid split and you catch them on the timing, you don't have that opportunity anymore. And as well, if you're on advantages on CT sides, you're not also going to be able to spot them if they rotate over from A to B or vice versa. So there are some shortcomings for CT sides as well. But yeah, I'm kind of a romantic in that sense as well, where, like, I liked sometimes where in a big round they'd be able to get a kill down mid and find an easy kill onto a CT, even if that was terrible to play out. Like, you imagine you're backed up into the corner and that happens to you, you feel terrible. So for competitive play, positive, but there are some longer-term implications where I actually think it's going to affect CT win rates in an advantage.
I will say this is a rare example where I am sort of cheating, because normally I only look at the competitive side, but I'll just say the actual experience of playing Beyond Us 2, it's like, it just fucking sucks. Like, there's a reason why, like, there's a lot of teams where one of the support players is just the guy who plays that box on fucking B, like, because everyone just goes like, I'm not fucking going and doing that, especially because I might just have half health all the time. With that said, though, I think Maniac makes a good point, which is, when it's the super fucking mega players, the really skilled players, like a classic example would be, if anyone's ever seen when Simple plays FPL, like, The amount of times I have seen him on CT side jumping scout headshot someone in T-spawn is fucking mental. Like, it actually shouldn't even be possible. Like, in that scenario, you're supposed to be the one at the disadvantage, but he does it just over and over again. So, it's certainly, you can use it as sort of like a moment you can sort of break the matrix a little bit. It's just, I think, the experience for everyone who's not a superhuman fucking alien that came to Earth, it sucks for everyone else. So I'm kind of like, in that sense, it's just my problem is I kind of agree with you, Yumi. To just block it entirely. Like, this is the thing with Valve. If people don't know, there's an old comic from like 2010 that it is so perfect because it describes the way that Blizzard, Valve, and Riot balance the games. And the joke goes like this. It's something like Blizzard just gives like one guy an axe and the other guy has a dagger. And then when the guy with the dagger keeps going, this is shit, I can't fight. He just goes, right, you have the axe now. And then the other guy has the dagger. What the fuck? And then, because like one of the races in StarCraft is always like super OP as fuck, right? Mm-hmm. Then the one for Riot is like, you both just have daggers. Two shitty little daggers. It's like, they've nerfed everything. And I forget what it was for Valve. I think in Valve it was something like, you have an axe and then he has a sword. So it's like, you both got some OP shit, because obviously that's from Dota, right? The problem is, I feel like Valve in CSGO is doing the fucking Blizzard way. They just go like this. Oh, here's this org. And you go, fucking hell, that's OP. And they go, all right, I've destroyed it. There you go. No one can use it anymore. And you go, well, I didn't mean that. Like, you know, just tune it down a little bit. So the same thing here. Like, they go, oh, right, everyone can just get shot through all of the doors just made out of wood. And you go, well, it's a bit too fucking easy, isn't it? And they go, right, well, no, there's no more door then. There you go. And now you can't see anything. You go, well, what's this overreaction? Why can we never just go down 2% and up 2%? In CSGO, we have to go like 20 up, 20 down. It's like the stock market or something. There's no fucking rhyme or reason. So I do feel as though like there were other ways you could do this. Like, couldn't there be a way where there's a small area you can look through, and maybe it's only like half the door's worth, and if they jump that part, you can shoot that. You know, I feel like there's ways you could have gone around. Because actually, I think your point there, Yumi, is a pretty shrewd one, which is that on CT side, for example, you can't just yourself use the same angle and look behind them all and see, right, there's a guy going lower and I'm going to catch this guy here. Like, you have to drop down. You're only going to see people on your horizontal level. Like, it actually even potentially can impact CT side, even though we're mainly thinking of T side here.
Yeah, one of the limitations of that fight was always as well that if you're a CT peeking in, you have to worry about suicide, then all of the different angles that the
yes.
T can have. So you have just like the worst advantage. You have no advantage in that fight, right? But yeah, I didn't even think about the idea of being able to limit where the T positions could be for that
yes.
particular duel, because then that eliminates some of the variance, and then it comes down to crosshair placement and the sort. But yeah, I don't know. It's almost like I wish there was also like a way to like deep flash on CT, because I think you'd be happier.
That used to be the case long time ago. That's what we used to do. We used to deep flash that.
Yeah. So instead, that if they could bring that back as viability instead of just completely eliminating it, because it felt like one of the.
Want to see more cool, funny, interesting clips based on topics from my content? Well, subscribe to this channel then, or be a pleb and don't.